Made some progress today. I didn't film a whole lot of it. I just filmed a little bit of my buddy Omar came over with his fancy floor scraper and we scraped up the linoleum. Came up really well. This part I did with a hand scraper just because I wanted to be able to work on the shower pan, and I wasn't expecting Omar to come over as soon as he did. And the rest of it was just with his scraper, so it's damn near perfect. I could hit like some little spots like that, make it, you know, perfect concrete. I need to hand scrape over here because it was too tight of an area to get his machine in there, but that's no big deal. He saved me a lot of time by coming over with that fancy piece of equipment he had. While I was ripping the baseboard off, I found some soft drywall that was like behind the sink area. It looks like it might be a little moldy, so that just opened up another bag of worms. I'm gonna end up cutting up this drywall and ripping that all out and replacing it with some of the anti-mold green stuff. I forget what it's actually called, but I'll put that in to hopefully mitigate or eliminate any future mold issues I may have from water in the sink splashing out or whatever caused that. I put up the wall on the other side and there wasn't mold on that side, so I know it's just on this side, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal or too much of a problem to fix. My dad came over and relocated these water lines. So I don't know if you remember, they used to hang down right here, and now they've been relocated to here. We measured it up with the shower panel, and where they're at now is going to work good. It was a little tricky for us to figure out exactly how we were going to do this. We ended up getting these valves because I wanted to be able to turn it off, but with the handles on, it sticks out a little bit. So we just took the handles off and just leave them in there. It's going to be all hidden behind the panel, so you'll never see that, but I left the handle in there just in case I want to be able to turn them on and off in the future for whatever reason, if the shower panel fails or something like that. And of course, we insulated them with these pipes, the pipe insulation, just because you don't want it to be sweating or anything like that. Condensation could cause, you know, mold issues once again, and that's the last thing I want. Next thing up on my agenda is I'm going to set the drain 3/4 of an inch high off of this concrete slab. The reason I'm doing 3/4 of an inch is because you need a 1/4 inch of drop per 1 foot, so for the slope of the shower, to make the shower water drain into the drain. So I'm going to do the furthest, I'm going to measure the furthest point from the drain. So the furthest point from the drain to the corner basically is a little less than 3 feet. And I'm going to do my pre-slope and line it up with this bottom 2x4. So it's going to start there. That's 1.5 inches from the 2x4. And it's going to slope down to 3/4 of an inch below the drain, or at the drain. So that'll give me my 1/4 of an inch per foot of slope that I need. And the first thing to doing that is to get that drain height set at 3/4 of an inch off of that slab. So I'm going to do that right now. And then once I get that drain glued onto there, I'll fill in this with concrete and let that dry before I put in the pre-slope. Alright, so I just slapped the drain on kind of see where I'm at. And it's at about 2 3/8. So I need to cut this pipe down so that this sits at 3/4 of an inch. So I need to take like 1.5 inches off of it. I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to do that. It's going to be kind of tricky to cut in here, but we'll figure it out. So that's next. Figuring out how to cut this off. Alright, so I trimmed it a bit, and now it's sitting at about 1 inch. So I still need to get a 1/4 inch out of it. It was kind of tough to cut. I didn't do the prettiest job. As you can see, it's not perfectly flat. It's kind of haggard. I used this busted hacksaw and just kind of did one of these numbers. Anyway, like I said, it's still a 1/4 inch high about. So I think I might get my 4-inch angle grinder and just basically grind it down that last 1/4 inch and try to get it nice and smooth and uniform on the top so it's not uneven, and make it as level as possible. That way it makes the drain setting level easier for me. Oh, another thing I did while my dad was here, I borrowed his laser level and I put this banner on. So I've been wanting to do that for a while. I had it trimmed and it looks it's a disaster in here because I have motors torn apart and 3,000 projects going on, but eventually all my race bikes and stuff will be parked right there. And if you know what my race bikes look like, they look kind of like that. So it's got the same wrap as the border. Hoping it'll look pretty neat. Alright, so like I said, I got my angle grinder. My plan is to just grind it down like that, a 1/4 inch. It's kind of perfect, it fits in there pretty good, and this guard actually saves it from hitting on 3 sides. So I just gotta try to be careful. I'm gonna go slowly and check it a bunch, you know, measure nunts, cut a bunch, so we'll see how it goes. And I joke about not measuring, but this isn't something that you want to mess around with, the measurement being wrong. So as you can see over here, I'm about just less than an inch. And on this side, it's a little bit less than 7/8. So I'm just going to try to grind down this side a little bit more and get it to level out and grind it all down a little bit, but it's working well. Surprisingly well, actually. Let me weasel this off here. And if you look, I don't know if you can tell, but the drain is much cleaner looking now. It's got a nice smooth edge on top. So this side's just a little bit higher yet. I'm going to take about a 1/4 inch off of this side and maybe like a 1/16 or so off of that side, ideally. So we'll give it another grind and give it another measure. Alright, the drain's looking pretty good so far. It's actually going smoother than I expected. If you can look inside, you want to make sure that it's seated fully before you're doing any of these measurements. So I got it tight, pushed down on there tight, and just gonna double check all my measurements on all 4 sides. So that looks like 3/4 of an inch there, 3/4 of an inch there, that's also 3/4 of an inch. I don't think you can see it, but take my word for it. And that's 3/4 of an inch. So that is perfect for me now. The next thing I need to do is actually glue it down and then fill in this concrete around it. I'm not sure. I might try to put some concrete in first and then glue it and then fill the rest of the concrete in. I'm gonna pull it off once more and take a look at it and figure out a game plan for exactly how I want to go about this, getting the concrete in there, because it's kind of tough to get it through these corners. I guess I could stuff it in there, it might not be too bad, but it'll be a lot easier with this not on there at all to get down in there. So I'll probably put some concrete in first and fill it up to about where the bottom of the drain connects, and then I'll take it back off, put the glue on, glue it, and then fill the rest with concrete. Alright, so I got my concrete. I'm just gonna shove it in here, pack it down as much as I can around the corners and stuff before I put the drain on and have to try to squeeze in the rest of it. So this should be pretty straightforward. I got my butt plug in there so it doesn't let any stuff fall down my drain. The last thing I want to do is clog the drain that I'm installing a shower on top of. I think I got made a bit too much concrete, but that's okay. Better too much than not enough. I don't want to have to mix it twice and have it be two different consistencies. One more handful and then I'll grab the drain and we'll glue that on. And then the fun part will be trying to get the rest of this in there after the drain's on. That's pretty good though for now. I'm going to clean up that pipe a bit before I put this drain on. I know there's the PVC glue cleaner. I'm going to use that also, but I'm just trying to clean it up, get the concrete I just smeared all over it off before I rub my PVC glue brush thing all over that and ruin it. Here we go. Purple primer, regular cement. Also very important, got the level. So, see what we can do here. Alright, this is the primer. So we'll put the primer on. See what the directions say. Apply to both. Ah, dang. Oh, baby hands. Can't even open this thing. Gonna learn today. Alright. Let's get some of this primer on there. Prime, prime, prime. This helps get the PVC ready for the glue. They also make it cleaner. Not sure how necessary the cleaner is. Primer kind of is a cleaner, I think, but that's that. Also, I want to do inside of here. It's not very difficult, not rocket appliances. You just kind of slop some on there. That's it for that. Now the glue. Pretty excessively tight. I bent the can squeezing it. Now this is where it's going to get fun because I have to glue it and then make sure it's level and at a 3/4 of an inch before it dries, and then also stuff in the rest of the concrete without knocking it out of level. So this is going to get a little interesting here. I'm going to have to act quickly, I think, before this glue dries. All right, here goes nothing. First thing I'm going to do is just push it on there real good. Make sure it's fully seated which it looks like it is. Yeah, it looks good. Next, I'm going to make sure it's all level. So the level part, very important. And also make sure it's all at 3/4 of an inch still, in case something crazy happened and it picked up. That looks pretty good. Yep, we're still good there. It's all set down, so that makes sense. It should be good. Now the level thing. It's a little off. This side needs to come up just a tad. That looks pretty good. Check it this way. This side needs to come up just a tad. I think that's good now. So let's get down. Pretty good. Make sure there's not any junk on the bottom of your level, because that'll ruin your day. This isn't something you want to rush. This is something you want to definitely get right. It's looking pretty good. Oh man. Every time I move one, the other one moves a little bit though. It's kind of tricky. See, now that one's good. Now let's see if this one moved on me again. Yep. Getting harder to move. The glue's setting up. I don't have many more of these attempts left. Well, that's good because that looks perfect. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that bubble's right in the middle there. Right in the middle there. I'm not going to touch it anymore. I'm just going to leave it like that. Pretty happy with that. Just triple check once more that it's at 3/4 of an inch, which it is. Pretty good. All right. Perfect. Now I'm just going to stuff concrete in the rest of the way around it until the concrete's level with the floor here, and that'll be done. But I'm just going to give the drain a minute to dry to make sure that it stays level and I don't knock it off when I'm trying to put the concrete in. Alright, so I glued the drain on and I stuffed concrete around the sides. You can see there, I pushed it down and packed it in as much as I could so there's not any voids or air gaps or anything like that. And surprisingly, I used every bit of concrete I mixed up. So I'm glad I did mix a little more than I expected to use because I used all of it. And it's pretty lucky. I just happened to have the perfect amount. So I'll let this dry for a couple days while I'm building the bench and putting the curb in right here. And then once I have the bench and curb set, I can put the pre-slope in, so it's moving along.